This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
When most people think about Newfoundland and Labrador, they picture three iconic experiences: whales, puffins, and icebergs. Every spring and early summer, thousands of visitors travel to the province hoping to see these enormous pieces of Arctic ice drifting down what's known as Newfoundland's Iceberg Alley. But while icebergs have become one of Newfoundland and Labrador's tourism draws, they're also becoming a symbol of something much bigger. As our climate changes, the conditions that create and carry icebergs are changing too. Seasons are becoming less predictable, and some years bring fewer icebergs than expected. This is also raising questions about last chance tourism. Are people rushing to see icebergs in Newfoundland before they disappear? And are the tourists who are coming to see the icebergs walking away with a better understanding of the climate crisis? Today we're discussing all of this through the eyes of someone who spent decades working in tourism in Newfoundland. On my recent trip to Newfoundland, I sat down with Duane Collins, a local guide who has watched Iceberg Alley change over the course of his life and career. This is Curious Tourism, the podcast focused on making travel better for people and the planet. I'm Erin Hines, travel writer and content creator, and I'm joined by my producer, Katie Lohr.
If you enjoy this show, Erin and I would love you to support it. It's really easy to do so. First, you can double check that you're actually subscribed to this show on your favorite podcast app. And second, if you end up loving this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend, a fellow traveler, or somewhere on the internet.
You can also get in touch with us directly on social media or by email. All our contact info is in the show notes.
Aside from 12 years I spent in Churchill, Manitoba, I've lived in Newfoundland my whole life.
And how did you get into iceberg guiding?
Icebergs are an interesting part of what we do at Hare Bay Adventures because climate change has made icebergs for us here almost too variable from season to season.
Right.
So we do trips whenever they're here. And we'll get photos and we'll post it and we'll say, yep, we have some icebergs.
Yeah.
But we never know now from year to year. We'll have years where there's quite a few, and then the next year there'll be none, which when I was a kid would have been unthinkable that anyone who wanted to set up a tour company here would encounter the phenomenon of not being able to really emphasize coming for icebergs.
Right. They
were just everywhere here. They were a part of the landscape. They were such a part of the landscape here. We are on Iceberg Alley. The Gulf Stream doesn't really affect us here. It's all Labrador Current. They were so much a part of the seascape and life here that it wasn't until I worked in tourism that I kind of got why people would come to see them. They were just here, and not only were they just here, they were actually a bit of a dangerous nuisance.
Yeah.
If they approach fixed fishing gear, they'll destroy it. Icebergs are really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
They are indifferent to human life. They're melting, so their center of gravity is constantly changing. They can roll over and split off with no warning. The only thing useful we used to do out at our cabin on a remote island was when there were icebergs around, we would shoot pieces off of them with a rifle to gather the ice to put in the well, because the ice is very dense, so you get a lot of water kind of per cubic measurement. So, we don't do that with the guests anymore.
So you were drinking the iceberg water? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And now you have it bottled up over here. I saw some earlier.
Yeah.
That's interesting to think about, the fact that they were such a natural part of the landscape. You didn't even realize why a tourist would want to see
whales. I understood why people want to see whales. I always like whales.
Yeah.
But icebergs, but there's just so few places in the world where you can actually see icebergs.
Yeah. Especially from the shore, I guess.
Yeah.
And how have you seen it change over the years, since you were a child?
that variability didn't exist. Icebergs were as predictable as sunrise.
Yeah.
You knew you were going to have icebergs from April through mid-July, and there was no worries about it. Literally, I've seen the bay out here with enough icebergs in it that if you were plotting your course, you'd have to alter it to go around them. But that was a long time ago now.
For those who might not know much about them, why do icebergs appear off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador? Yep. I know that they've taken a journey probably across the Atlantic before they reach Iceberg Alley, but could you tell us a bit about that?
So life for an iceberg starts in a glacier in Greenland. 90% of our icebergs come from Greenland, the other 10% from various glaciers in the eastern Canadian high Arctic. And it'll take anywhere from 2 to 3 years for those icebergs to get here.
Wow.
So what happens is the glaciers, as they reach the ocean in Greenland, the face of that glacier, the glaciers move, right? Yeah. They're like a slow motion river.
Yeah.
As they hit the ocean, well, it's like an unbalanced shelf. The ice is hanging on, only supported by water. And gradually that face will calve off. And that's the birth of an iceberg right there. Mm. That's the difference between an iceberg and sea ice. The iceberg originating glacier ice that's been frozen for thousands of years on land.
Right.
Sea ice comes from seawater that is frozen. It's very different. Because the ice was compressed, it's very dense, it's very hard, and they're just massive. So that journey then begins. So usually it's in a fjord, and it'll take a while for that iceberg to move out of the fjords. It'll follow then currents, so push it often northward first, loop around kind of Baffin Bay. Then the currents that will combine and make up what we now know as the Labrador Current will bring that iceberg down to the coast of Labrador through the Labrador Sea, eventually coming to northeastern Newfoundland. Okay. And then beyond until they hit the Gulf Stream, kind of southeast of Newfoundland, and where they'll melt.
And so when they reach here, have they already melted a significant amount? Like, are they smaller than they would have been when they first broke off?
Yeah, they've already gone through 2 to 3 summers and winters at sea.
Oh, that's wild to think about, that they're like 3 years already, 3 years old by the time they reach here. What's the largest one you've seen, do you think? I can't even imagine
that's
the size
the
of
thing.
them.
The scale of them is hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Because as big as they are much bigger than what you think. Because it's literally only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
90% of an iceberg is underwater.
Underwater, yeah.
They're only 9/10 the density of water. That huge bit that you're seeing is dwarfed by what's underneath. I've seen them literally they look like a castle. I've seen ones with the pillars in them. There's some that'll have like what they call a dry dock. I'd call it the world's worst dry dock because you could literally drive a boat into the iceberg and have ice all around you because it's got like a little harbor in it. I've seen them with waterfalls on them.
Wow.
So there's literally a little glacial pond on the top of it that's melting over the side. Like I said, I can't even imagine, like, if we're talking weight-wise, it's mind-boggling how big they truly are.
Yeah. You talked a bit about this already, but I'm curious if you have anything more to say about it. Because like you said, when you were growing up, they were just part of the landscape. They're part of like Newfoundland's identity in a way. What role do you think that they've played historically in coastal communities? And do you think that people here feel like a specific connection to them?
Yeah, I think they do. They're a part of the fabric of life. They were a marking of the season. They were kind of harbingers that summer's coming. You knew icebergs were traveling down with the pack ice. So, the pack ice brought seals, which were both economically very important as well as very important food source. Mm-hmm. And they've become, I think, a symbol of Newfoundland. They're on so much merchandise.
Yeah.
We make beer out of the water from ice. It's really nice beer, actually. If you get a chance to try Iceberg lager, please. They're iconic. Like, they are a truly identifiable part of Newfoundland. Like Iceberg Alley, the lore that goes with them, Titanic. It is a part of, I think, what the world thinks of us.
Yeah. So when it comes to iceberg guiding, I'm curious if you know a bit about the history of how, like, it became a tourist activity to come see icebergs here, maybe when that started, and how it's evolved over time, especially with climate change, reducing the amount of icebergs that there are to actually see here.
Yeah, I would think that's kind of I'd have to look, but I think iceberg viewing really kind of took off in the 80s on a wider level. And that's true that as tourism in Newfoundland developed as well.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of our kind of most famous tour companies for whales and puffins, they all kind of get their start there, late 70s, early 80s, early to mid 80s. And icebergs became part of that palette of things on offer, right? And it's grown right at a time now when climate change is impacting that visibility. It'll be interesting to see how places and companies and individuals adapt to that. How do you market when you don't know from year to year?
It's interesting you mentioned this, because we actually spoke, my producer Katie and I, we spoke with someone a couple months ago about tourism in Nepal, about how they're experiencing the same challenge there, in that tourists plan to come during a specific hiking season that's supposed to be the best weather, but it doesn't always deliver. Sometimes they show up and the weather is not what it would have been based off of like decades of weather patterns, because they're changing. But in the context of icebergs, it's interesting to me too to say that it's gaining more popularity now, because there's an irony in the fact that like the tourism is becoming more popular as climate change is making the icebergs less visible to us, because there's also like the issue of more tourists and the impact that that has on the region as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element for certain things in tourism now of see it before it's gone.
Right.
And with icebergs, they're not gone, and you can certainly still see them here. But I would actually tell you now that iceberg season largely doesn't overlap with whales and puffins. And those are the three of the big things people want to see when they come to Newfoundland. It's icebergs, humpbacks, and puffins.
Yeah.
But now the best viewing for icebergs doesn't really overlap much with the best viewing for humpbacks and puffins.
Yeah.
It used to. Now, if you really want to be sure you're going to see icebergs, really you should be coming to Newfoundland in April, May, early June, maybe pushing to mid-June, especially for the more northerly parts of the island. But that's going to put you before the main migrations for the whales and the seabirds and that.
So it used to be that like people could combine all of those things and see everything with one trip.
You know, the first 2 to 3 weeks of July, it would have been, you know, if you go back 30, 40 years ago, it would have been no problem to see icebergs and humpbacks and all of that all at the same time.
Yeah.
There used to be a Newfoundland tourism ad that even said, you know, you can't see the icebergs for the whales.
Have you noticed, I mean, I'm sure you speak with other people around the tourism industry. Are people worried about this? About how it's like impacting the seasonality for tourism, but also like, I'm sure there's tourists that come still thinking, if I come in July, I'm going to see icebergs. And then they arrive and they're disappointed. Yeah, I mean, disappointing guests is the one thing no guide, no tour operator ever wants to do. You try to manage expectations and you try to plan, right? Like you have to promote your business, all of this. It's very well known in the industry of what the impacts of climate change. There's still a lot of fears because there's a lot of unanswered questions. Climate change is the crisis that makes every other crisis worse.
And it's the unpredictability that's such a key, and that's in so many levels. It's like pulling on the threads of a tapestry without knowing what's connected to what.
Right.
We're well aware, as anyone who does boat operations, sea level rise, coastal erosion, we have infrastructure on the shore. This is being impacted. So when you're making these, and these are expensive pieces of infrastructure that have long service lives, you've got to now make allowances for what's that coastline going to look like 20, 30, 40 years out, which is a cloudy crystal ball at best.
What do you think are the most major impacts that will be felt in Newfoundland specifically?
Yeah, I think iceberg viewing the season for it will shift to being earlier in the year, which as an industry can actually have benefits in that it can lengthen our tourist season, which I actually think you're seeing. More people coming earlier. Our falls are actually quite lovely. That ocean takes a long time to warm up. It takes a long time to cool off. So Newfoundland has unexpectedly nice Septembers and Octobers. And then there's winter tourism. We still have a winter. It's less predictable than it once was. But people do want to experience some of that, what it's like to be in a winter. And our summers are still quite comfortable because of our severe marine climate. And when I say severe, I mean it in the sense of strongly influenced by the ocean. We don't see minus 30 very often in the winter on the island, just like we don't see a whole lot of plus 30 in the summer. We see like a typical summer day, we see a lot in the 20s. Pleasant.
On that note, we were chatting before we started recording a bit about how you've noticed more tourists coming for longer periods of time during the summer from regions of the US that are very hot. And this is a new phenomenon from what you tell me.
Yeah, I think Atlantic Canada is seeing it. I've heard the term called reverse snowbirds. The idea that places like the southern United States, the summers are getting pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And Atlantic Canada offers an escape from that. And, we're seeing it in other hot locations, people showing up saying, just the summer is so much nicer here. It's going to be a phenomenon that we're going to see more and more from a tourism point of view. From a larger scale thing, it's likely going to be something that's going to influence people's choices for where they live. The scariest version of it is the full-on climate refugee.
Yeah.
For someone to be a refugee means something absolutely tragic and traumatic has happened in their life, in their home, and they're desperate. How desperate will it be when they don't have a home to go back to? That's a truly scary proposition.
And I think it's something people don't think about a lot, especially for those of us who are living in more northern hemispheres. Yes, we have heat waves here, but many of us have air conditioning. It doesn't have the same impact. We don't really know what it's like to live in extreme heat and how inhospitable that can be. And I've read that parts of southern India will be up in the 40s consistently in the next few decades. And then that is entering a degree of heat that is truly inhospitable. Humans can't survive that.
I've worked in adventure tourism, along with, before that I was in archaeology, so I did a lot of backcountry work, a lot of different training for wilderness first aid. Heat injury, heat stroke, heat exhaustion scares me way more than hypothermia.
Yeah.
Hypothermia takes a lot of time to kill a person. Heat stroke does not. I don't know any adventure tour guide now who hasn't dealt with this on the job.
Yeah.
And it's truly scary. It's going to be, hopefully, and I don't want to sound too doom and gloom because I'm still optimistic that we can miss the worst case scenarios. The world is changing. you're right about it. In Canada and North America in general, we can be a bit isolated from it.
I've spoken with other people about glacier tourism and about how over the years the tourism story being told is changing to include like this glacier is melting, and people leave with a very different emotional feeling about the climate crisis because now they've seen it represented. And humans are kind of, I guess we all are kind of just like, we need to see it to believe it creatures. And so yeah, you need that very like dramatic visual representation to really like feel the emotions of what's happening.
Tens of thousands of years of evolution have made humans very good at recognizing the immediate threat in the bushes.
Yeah.
We see the tiger ready to eat us. It's difficult to see a slow-moving crisis, to wrap our heads around that. And yes, seeing is believing. There is, without a doubt, within tourism, there are elements now of see it before it's gone. Icebergs, polar bears, glaciers, these are all falling into that category. And I routinely get that question. I guide for polar bear viewing up in Churchill, Manitoba. I do iceberg tours, and I'm on the ocean here. And I get asked about, what's the impact of tourism? How do you feel about that? How does the traveler feel about that?
Yeah.
And some of them are they feel kind of guilty. And there's times I've felt kind of guilty. But I look at it from that point of view of advocacy and knowledge. Once it's real for someone, wherever they go, it's harder to forget about it. And that's where I think the impact of tourism with regards to carbon footprints and climate change, that's the argument for tourism. Done properly with that educational element. You don't have to hit people over the head with it. They are on vacation. We're all entitled to enjoy our vacation.
Yeah.
But it's okay to make people think. Mm-hmm. And it's okay for them to get a little uncomfortable sometimes. As long as you do it in a way that allows people to think about it and allows people to absorb it, you're unlikely to change someone's core beliefs in the limited time you as a guide are going to spend with them. Yeah. But you might plant the spark.
That's a really good point. And I love that it's one of those tourism activities. I think icebergs especially, people see it on Instagram, these like incredible images, and they want that photo. And so they travel here, they go to Twilling Gate, they're hoping to get that photo. But what maybe they didn't expect is to also like get some education about how icebergs are changing, what this means for the planet. They're sort of getting an education that they didn't realize they were going to get when they like saw that photo on Instagram that got them to book a flight to Newfoundland.
It can be a little like giving your dog a pill and you just wrap it in a cheese slice.
That's a great metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't shy away from these discussions. I don't believe in it's a forbidden topic on all my tours. I tell people, you can ask, and we can talk about this. We're going to keep it respectful, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Because some things are much less visible. Anyone who works with the ocean stuff, it's sometimes called climate change's equally evil twin. It's ocean acidification. And it gets way less media coverage than climate change. When we put carbon into the atmosphere, the majority of that carbon will actually get absorbed by the ocean. It gets dissolved into the water. And when carbon dioxide is dissolved in water, it produces carbonic acid. Oceans are alkaline. So when that carbonic acid forms, it's going to lower the pH. Now, That's not to say that this is going to cause the ocean to become, as acidic as vinegar. But that scale is not linear. Just shifting it a little bit affects the life in it. Mm-hmm. Most plankton and anything with a shell, and most plankton actually have a shell, is formed out of calcium carbonate. The more acidic the water is, the harder that organism has to work to produce the calcium carbonate shell. And that begins to affect the very basics of the food chain. As some marine biologists call it, you end up getting rid of the crunchies and replacing them with the jellies, the gelatinous organisms, which don't have as much nutrition. Ocean acidification is scary because at least one mass extinction in Earth's history was largely attributed to ocean acidification. And it was the worst one. 252 million years ago at the end of the Permian. This was an episode in Earth's history where 90-something% of all species disappeared. Paleontologists call it the Great Dying. We probably shouldn't replicate those conditions.
Yeah.
Going out on a limb.
Should probably learn from history. Why do you think someone living far from Newfoundland should care about what's happening here?
It won't stay here. It can seem esoteric to think about icebergs in Newfoundland, polar bears in Hudson Bay, rainforests and glaciers in Nepal. But it will impact it. There is no refuge that will be left untouched. And that's why I think you should go to these places and experience them. The best thing I can think of about coming to a place like Newfoundland is that it exists.
It's so true. And I've only been here a few days so far, but I already feel, and I think this is something that people miss sometimes about visiting a place. Yes, the landscapes are incredible. The ocean is beautiful, but it's also the heritage and the culture here. It's all of that together just makes it this really special place that you can't replicate anywhere. Oh. You just can't.
Yeah, it's a marvelous, terrible place. As the sideways rain today was kind of driving home.
But the sideways rain, you're still having a great time. Yeah. I don't know, I was.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Norwegian saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear.
Bad clothes, yeah.
Yeah, this is a remarkable place. I tell Newfoundlanders all the time, we live in an exotic location.
Yeah.
You just don't realize it because it's home. The fish doesn't know it's wet.
Yeah. So after spending most of your life here observing these changes firsthand, how do you feel about the future? Do you feel mostly concerned or a mixture of concern and hopeful?
Concerned, but hopeful. I am an optimist by nature. Doesn't mean I don't have a few days here and there. It was it hasn't been a great 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm optimistic for a few reasons. One, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I need to be optimistic for her.
Yeah.
I don't vote for myself. I vote for her.
Yeah.
The other reasons, pessimism is not a survival strategy. Pessimism is a way of accepting what is without striving to change it. I can't accept that. I don't think it's too late. Many of the remarkable scientists I've had the privilege to work with over the years in various fields, they don't believe it's too late. Again, they have their moments. The clock is ticking, but it's still not too late.
Well, to wrap up, I wanted to ask you for a fun story because you are a certified polar bear guard. From what I read, this means you're trained to detect polar bears as well as monitor areas for possible activity.
Yes.
So you're guarding humans from the bears.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I'm like the referee in hockey, and as I tell the guests, I can't put the bear in the penalty box, but I will put you there.
So I heard from Matt Malloy that you have some great stories about polar bears. So I was hoping you could share one with us.
Yeah, I've got a few. I'll start with this. I have never had to kill a bear.
Oh.
I have made my peace that if you can't do that, you shouldn't do this type of work.
Yeah.
But I've never had to, but I've come close. And without a doubt, the closest, I was guarding a group of people, and I saw a bear that was trying not to be seen as it was coming closer to the group.
Yeah.
Not cool. And it was a big old skinny male, kind of the worst you really want to encounter.
Because hungry, probably.
It's hungry. It's probably within the next few years, the end of its life. So again, not an effective hunter. It's in its ice-free season. It's lean.
Yeah.
You know, it's the old Shakespeare line. He has a lean and hungry look about him.
Yikes.
And so I get all my group behind me, and that's when the bear now, he's kind of looking straight at me. And he's got all the signs of this is a predatory stock. It's not curiosity. It's not defensive. Their body language tells you this. When they're in a predatory stock, they're quiet, very focused, like their eyes don't leave you, their ears are towards you, they're very low to the ground, like literally their chin's inches.
Kind of like a cat.
Very cat-like.
Interesting.
And they're moving steadily but not quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're an ambush predator. They want to get to a range that they think they can take their prey on a rush. And seeing how a polar bear at full charge, it's about 40K.
Jeez.
They look like a furry freight train when that happens.
Yeah.
So I know he's making those calculations. The look they give you, by the way, I always describe as though it looks as though you owe it money. And I don't mean a 20. It's very focused.
Yeah.
So I'm armed. And I had that firearm shouldered, safety off, round in the chamber. Mm-hmm. And I'm yelling at the bear, and I'm backing up. And he's close now to maybe slightly more than 20 meters. And now I have the line in the sand that I'm not going to let him cross.
Yeah.
And people ask, oh, are you going to give it a warning shot? No, not at that range. The unfortunate thing is, in hindsight, I wasn't even all that concerned with my own safety. My thought was, I'm about to kill this bear in front of 20 people who didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
This isn't hunting.
Yeah.
This isn't shooting an animal. I've hunted since I've been a young boy. You put yourself as a hunter, as an ethical hunter, in a situation where all the advantages are to you. I've never put more than 2 bullets into an animal. I stack the deck because I think as a hunter, the biggest ethical thing I owe to that animal is to harvest cleanly. Mm-hmm. Defense scenarios are not that. The deck is not stacked in your favor.
Yeah.
It's up close. This isn't 200 meters away.
Yeah.
This is less than 20. And those poor people behind me, they're going to see all of this. And it's going to be bloody and it's going to be gory. Half of them are going to have PTSD. Half of them are going to think I'm a hero. Half are going to think I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
All of them are going to have it on social media shortly after it happens.
Yeah.
But as I'm backing up and getting ready for this and yelling at it, I noticed that he was starting to slow a bit. Now that's one of 2 things. Either he's getting to the point where he's going to charge, or he's having second thoughts. And I'm a big believer when you're dealing with wildlife, your behavior influences their behavior. Act like prey, and they'll treat you like it. So by the time this all happened, I was pretty experienced. Again, I'm not going to make it sound like I'm, Davy Crockett here. I'm going to, put his eye out at 1,000 meters or nothing, but I'm a competent shot.
Yeah.
So I was confident that wasn't going to end well for him.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm going to try something. And I took a deep breath, and I took 2 big steps towards him as I yelled at him. And that threw him off. He stopped, and because in the end, he's a polar bear. He's not used to things approaching him.
Yeah.
So he stopped, and he got out of that stalking stance, and he started to walk away.
Wow.
And by then, my partner had arrived, and the 2 of us chased it the rest of the way off.
Wow.
So that's the closest I ever came to killing a bear.
Oh my gosh. It's funny to me too that what you're meant to do is the same as with like a black bear.
Yeah.
Is just don't be like prey.
Yeah. Do not be like prey.
Do not act like prey.
Yeah.
What was the context in which you encountered this bear?
I was working for Parks Canada at the time in Churchill, and we were at a National Historic Site called Prince of Wales Fort National Historic Site.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for the tour boat to come and pick up the group.
So you weren't trying to see bears?
Oh, no. I do not believe in putting guests in a position that puts them at risk of encountering a bear.
Yeah.
Parks Canada very strictly practices avoidance. When we avoid bears, we would shut the site down if we couldn't haze a bear away from where people normally would be. Site's closed for the day. Simple as that. I'm a big believer in ethical wildlife tourism, whether it's with the whales that we do here, whether it's now when I guide up in Churchill with Frontiers North Adventures. The animals come first, and the people's safety. That's the 2 principles.
Yeah.
Because you can't have one without the other. What we had no intention of seeing a bear.
I think that's what a lot of people don't realize about Churchill is like that there's actually polar bears everywhere.
Yeah.
Including in the town.
Yep.
Wow, that's an incredible story. If people want to come meet you here in Newfoundland, go on one of your tours, or just look you up to learn more, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, you can find Hare Bay Adventures on most social media platforms. You can Google us. We have a full web page as well. It's www.harebayadventures.com. I think it's .com, not .ca. I should look at the card.
We'll include it in the show notes. It's .com or .ca. Thanks for listening to Curious Tourism. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with a fellow traveler. If you're feeling extra generous, you can leave us a 5-star review or support us on Patreon. Anything you can do to support the show will help foster meaningful change throughout the travel industry. Curious Tourism is written and hosted by me, Erin Hines, and it's produced and edited by Katie Lohr in Canada's Toronto area. If you want to reach out to us, check the show notes for all the info you need. Stay tuned for a new episode next month, and of course, stay curious.
Luxury flights and hotels can be had for free. The world of points and miles sounds too good to be true, but it's actually real, but only if you know what you're doing.
On Frequent Miler on the Air, Greg and I'm Nick, discuss all the ways to earn points and miles and use them for outsized value.
Join us every Friday for our full episodes and every Tuesday for our quick, single-topic coffee break episodes.
See you there.
Close your eyes for a second. You're not at home, you're somewhere else, and you can hear it. This is the Winging It Travel podcast, and I'm James Hammond, recording my travels as they happen, capturing real moments, real places, and the sounds that make each journey unforgettable. From immersive soundscape episodes to conversations with locals and travelers.
My name is Dishinam, and this is Buddhist Nuns College, so I'm in 6th year.
This podcast is about travel as it actually feels, and not how it's sold. If you crave honest stories, unplanned moments, and adventures beyond the guidebook, put your headphones on and let's wing it. Search for Winging It Travel Podcast on any podcast app.